teenager, yeah, it was really quite interesting. Like I put him onto like studying and researching and stuff, and that was basically what his job was, because he was kind of like, I don't know, protected. He was like a little brother kind of situation. You want to protect him, and I know that's like one san. I call her One-san. Like the Japanese like big sister. She's an apocalypse survivor, and I will keep calling her One-san, even though it's one san. um, but yeah, One-san came in, and she was slightly older than my main people when she joined, and I did sort of see her as kind of like the big sister that has to go out and take care of the responsibilities and stuff like that. Enyo, Enyo was always kind of cool. She was a sickly child. Um, I'd have issues with her sometimes, but yeah, as a careful shooter, she was basically like my primary hunter, somebody I could rely on to go and bring food back for the group. Chimpanzee was originally a wild human, as amusing as that concept is, being a chimpanzee. So anyway, being a wild human, I tamed him, and he was obviously a wild human. He's got no social capabilities, and at first I found that was super frustrating because I kept forgetting in the first map that I had him, and then I kind of got used to the fact that he was really great at other stuff. Like he ended up becoming the main person to make stuff in my base. Um, I could always rely on, if I had a quest come in for a quote for like 20 button-down shirts or so many gladiuses, he was my man to get in there, and he would do it. He'd do it quickly, and he'd do it high quality. And I always really appreciated him. So that's kind of how I use him. Tofu's a dick. He's just straight up, I hate him. I hate him so much. I almost didn't add him. He is the biggest shit stir. He's a shop kid. He's like 15, and he acts 15 his entire life. it is it is one of those things where he literally is almost not worth it. He's constantly giving up. In the last one, he married 3 of my main ladies, broke their hearts, cheated on them, slept with the other ladies, got with them, bitched about not being able to move into their swanky ass rooms because, the main girls had the best bedrooms ever, and he was just this lowly little slab of tofu. And he was such an ass. He had 3 marriages in the first, like, I barely had a hospital wing, and this guy was on his 3rd marriage. I know you'd love him. Like, that's why I put him back. Honestly, he is a big shit stirrer, and he pisses me off. But at the same time, I can't have a completely perfect squad. And he is one of the founding members of it. So just remember this little purple bowl cut. Such a nightmare. Like, I love Lincoln. Tofu, mate. Um, Seahorse. Um, I got her on my maybe 3rd or 4th map, because I did do a lot of maps. A lot of them weren't successful. I only had maybe 3 that did live for a while. And Seahorse was one of the ones that came in, and I think she only had shooting, and she had like intelligence or something. She came in with like 2 really strong qualities as 20s. Like, you don't get many people walk in with a 20 skill, and I'm like, holy shit, you know. So I had to bring her in the future. So I brought in Seahorse, and then I made her a twin. Like, she's Cave Child. I made her a twin, but I made her twin actually be completely different. So Silverware, I know it's Silver War, but she's Silverware. And she's basically kind of the exact same thing, except she's my plants girl. So Seahorse and I think Enyo. No, mustn't be Enyo. Must be Seahorse and like one of these girls up here. Whichever one it is. One of them has, yeah, maybe her? Somebody has good social. Nason. Nason, Seahorse are my trade people. So when people come in to trade stuff, they're the ones I'll go and grab. Yeah, I know. A 20 to come in is like nuts. That's why I made her. I'm like, I'm not missing it because she came in with two things being 20. She had shooting. Oh shit. Get that back up to where I had that. She had shooting was 20, and what was it? Social, intellectual. I think it was intellectual was like 20. I don't know. One of those two was 20. And it was nuts. I'm like, not having her again. But interestingly enough, even though everybody's going to start with 19 to 20, like I said, they're all starting off high because I need that to start. But they will lose those specs over time. Like in the last map, I think Lincoln or Tofu was down to 10s on a lot of his ones that he started with 19. From my perspective, I don't care if they lose a lot of these skills over time because I'll get other people that can do that. Everybody's around about 14 to 21 years old. So we're starting with a very young and healthy group because obviously once they're maybe in their 30s, they start getting health conditions like crazy. I remember Anasan, of all people, end up getting like frail in her 30s, and I'm like, well, living up to it, you know, big sister, or older sister kind of thing. Originally, I had relationships, and I think this is where I went wrong last time because a couple of these people, they in my original map married, and I was okay with it. Like Chimpanzee had a wife in amongst all these people, and you know a couple of other people did too. But I wanted to make sure I didn't have any relationships this time. None of them were parent or sibling. Like obviously, Seahorse and Silverware are technically twins, made them twins, but like none of them have a relationship for this reason because last time, as I said, I started and like Tofu, the little shit, like he's 15. He should be just happy that he's like, you know, got a wife. You know, he's not worrying about that kind of thing. But at the same time, no, had to jump into every other main ladies, and it was the main ladies too. It was like, why? Couldn't you have picked like, you know, one of the fictional ones like Silverware? Nope. Had to be the top ladies. By the way, Lumi to Acosta are really the top ladies, the main four. That's why they've got all their armor. They're the only ones that have armor. And funny thing is, I almost added in Franklin from my last map, and I chose not to. And Franklin was my healer. I was really attached to him, but he was a pacifist. So the only thing he really did was he tended to like the animals and he did medical. Whenever a medical emergency happened, I could guarantee that Franklin should not theoretically be injured, and he should be somewhere loitering around the medical wing. So I didn't have to worry too much about that. Equipment. Now they do have a good amount of stuff. I did change this because I had a lot more really, really good like gold stuff in my last startup. And I kind of wanted to avoid starting with too high a value put on my base's head. So I lowered some things like, you know, silver and gold and the things that they're getting in gold. So they're getting a shit ton of food. That's just a given. I need that for them to just live. It should be about 100, on average, it's normally 100 meals per person to start for a packaged survival meal. is your best way to get like a good first week where they can just focus on getting the structure of the building made. I put in a couple of extras because there's a chance that I'll need more than that. But we've got 600 silver. We've got a good amount of food. I did put in 200 medical. Last time I had like 400 or 500 medical. So this is going to be interesting because I don't have as much medical supplies. And last time they just repeatedly beat the shit out of each other for like the first 2 weeks. So this is going to be interesting. I did add a little bit more components and steel specifically because it's so hard to get to my base. It's so heavy. So I want to be able to actually get stuff underway pretty quickly. I put a little bit less wood. Of course, I have some animals. I'd like to say they're my animals, but they're not going to be like Heaven or was it Navigator, stuff like that. They're not going to be the animals I had last time, but I hope to like these ones as well and hope that they're okay. So I'll have 2 female cats, 2 female panthers, 3 female thrombos, just because last time they gave me 2 ancient ass thrombos, way over 100. Completely, like, what am I supposed to do with an ancient woman? She ain't gonna breed. Well, she took forever to breed. Amazingly enough, these guys they cross paths all the time, never bred for the longest time until I actually started catching some. So I'm like, what were they, like sterile, or was it because they were really old? So I added 3 this time to hope, like hell, that I get a really young batch, but I'll probably get old with cataracts and bad backs and whatever. Probably be so useless. Standard of 2 male cats, 2 male panthers, and 2 male thrombos. I started one map with only 1, and my people went slaughterer and just immediately killed that one. So let's not make that mistake again. And I don't really see the point of keeping more than 3 male animals alive at any given time, just because you do not need that many male animals to reproduce. I'd love to have chickens, but I want to buy them, farm them myself. So I'm not giving myself that from the get-go. Again, I have a shit ton of pemmican. Same amount, just make sure I can feed the animals, I can feed them. We good. I did add more gladiuses this time. We've got 6 to begin with. I've got 12 people. I know probably only 3 of them are melee focused, like, fired up about melee. But I want to make sure I've got a couple of good weapons spare for in case I've got, whatever extra people. Now, I used to bring in more thrombo horn than this. This is kind of like my cheap money. I wouldn't call it like particularly like good money because not everybody buys thrombo horns. But if I'm ever in a pinch, this will get me through probably the first year in game. No worries. Thanks for being here though. I've got 5 psychic emanators. I normally have 4, and I will always start with psychic emanators just because they're just, I don't know, my people just go mental, and it's good to kind of, I don't know how much it helps, but it helps a little bit. Makes them feel a little bit better when they're working or sleeping in the vicinity where those are. Previously I've had 4, but I wanted to actually have an overlapping zone of 5. Oh, hello, Skull. Thanks for joining me. I gave less. Yes, I've got a couple of mods on. Give me a second, I'll find out what they are. I can figure out how to find that out. I think it's in workshop.